Hi, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Today on our journey to unplug and unwind and just have fun for a few minutes, I wanted to run through really quickly kind of a sewing 101 for you, just to figure out how to do things like how do I thread a needle, maybe do a couple stitches. What if my shirt got ripped, and you'll be able to mend it instead of having to throw it away or getting a new one, that kind of thing. And I think in today's day and age, when we're all trying to save money and stretch our dollars, our lari, or whatever money you have, it certainly is helpful to be able to do that. So let's get right into it. A couple of cautions really quick, just as you're getting started, just as you're beginning sewing, you might want to be cautious with socks, because if you where do we always get holes in the socks? Right in the heel, right? That's where a lot of times they end up wearing a hole. And unless you're a sewer that's been sewing for a while, what could happen when you mend that right there, there's now going to be a line with a bump, and it will just be annoying for anybody wearing it, and they're not going to want to wear it, and that's not what we want. So that might be a project for later, once you get going with your skills and just feel more comfortable with it. Another one would be jeans or denim. These are patches, and we're not going to go over this today, but you can get these in the stores too. They're super simple. You put them on the inside of your jeans, or some people do put them on the outside, and then you just iron them on. But we'll go over that in another video at another time, or we can if someone wants to see that. But denim can be another one that's tricky to sew. It's more difficult to sew, and it's even more difficult to keep the stitches in. Usually when you mend something, it just stays there and it's good to go. But with denim, it can keep pulling off and it can be frustrating to you. So we don't want to do that for sure. Okay, so let's get into what we would actually need for supplies and what it really takes to mend. And I think you'll be surprised to find out that it really doesn't take that much. As always, I want to stop for a moment and share scriptures with us, just reminders of joy and hope that the Lord is with us, that He does not leave us. And in Jesus, we can have peace even in this crazy, crazy time. With everything going on, it doesn't matter. He is still the same. So the first scripture is in the Old Testament, in Nehemiah 8, verse 10, and it says, "Don't be sad, because the joy of Adonai, the Lord, is your strength." And I tell you, a few years ago when I lost my husband suddenly, the Lord's joy was the only thing that got me through. Some days I just felt like I couldn't even breathe. And I hope that if you're going through something today, or in the future if you might, that you would remember this verse and you would call out to the Lord and find strength in His joy. And then in the New Testament, in the book of John, Jesus is talking and He reminds us, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." So that is a wonderful reminder for us today as we go about in this crazy world, never knowing what the headlines are going to say when we wake up, but we know that Jesus is the same no matter what, and He is with us. So I hope that brings your heart peace and joy today. As always, I put links down below that you can find out about the Lord, you can find out about peace through Jesus, and even becoming a follower of Him, if that is something that of interest to you. So please do check those out. Before we do go any further, I want to ask you, if you are enjoying these videos, if you're enjoying this journey with me, unplugging and relaxing and having fun, please hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel, and you'll also be able to be notified if you hit the bell when we do these videos, so you'll know when the new videos are out. So please consider doing that. And if you're liking this video, please hit the like button as well. That will be helpful. Okay, let's get started with Sewing 101. All right, your basic supplies, there's not really that much. I've shown it in another video. I have this sewing kit here, and I really like it. My mother gave it to me, so of course it's special. But you see it's cushy on the top, and I'll go over in a minute why that it's not just for decoration. So That's really good. And then it's got things on the inside that's for your needles and your pens and things. But I'm not going to go over that because you don't even have to have one of these. If you don't have a lot of space or you just want to have a little kit, you can even get some type of plastic container from the Dollar Tree and keep your supplies in there, because you don't need much to get started when you're mending clothes. So the first thing, of course, you're going to need needles. Now there's different kinds you can get. There's all different kinds. You can find these at the thrift stores at Goodwill and things. I kind of like this one because it's magnetic, so the needles stay on there. That was kind of a neat find. But I would suggest, if you are brand new, you might want to get the needles that have the bigger head piece to them, and they will be easier to thread. And I'm going to show this really up close so you can see those. The part with the hole in it is bigger, and that will be easier when it comes time to put the thread through it than if you get the kind with the little thread. You can get that and you'll get to where it won't really matter, but that might be an easy way to start out. Then of course you need your thread, and oh my goodness, you can get thread in just about any color that you can think of. You can get them big like that, you can get them little. There's a lot of kits even at the Dollar Trees and the thrift stores where they have a kit with needles and these little threads and pretty much everything you would need to do mending. So that's even good when you're traveling. Put that in your suitcase, in your check bag, and take that with you. And then if you have a problem, you can just sew it up really quick. It doesn't take very long. So that's a thought too. And then you need to get some type of push pins. And this one here, you can see there are different colors there. And then along with that, something you're going to hold those push pins in. Now this one would be good if you're not going to get a big sewing kit, because you can just stick them right in there. And this is also for your needles too. You can keep track of them that way. So you see, you just push it right in there and it sticks in there. And that is what you can use as you're sewing. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to keep them up here just as you're keeping it out, because you might run your hands on it or something. But as you're sewing, if you wanted to get a kit like this, those go right in there too. So see, they go right into the cushion and they'll stay there, and then they're really easy to find. And you'll notice that these have colored heads on them. So that makes it nice too, because then you can see where they are and keep them really easy. Then you'll need some type of device to cut your thread. You don't want to pull it. You don't want to really pop it with your teeth. I've seen people do that, and I mean, that's fine, but you can fray it on the end, and then that will make it difficult for you when it comes time to thread the needle, and that can be frustrating too. So this here, you can see that. Again, these are all sold in the same places, in the Hobby Lobbies, in the Walmarts and Targets and all that kind of place. That is called a seam ripper. And you can use this to cut your thread and it will work just fine. So if you have this, or it came with your kit, then you wouldn't need anything else. But you can also have any kind of pair of scissors or anything else that would sharply cut the thread right in half. You just don't want something that's gonna pull it off and then it's gonna fray, and that's not something that you want. I would highly suggest that you do get a thimble. You'll see these, they go on your fingers there, and your kids or maybe your roommates will play with them, but that's okay. So what they do is when you're pushing those needles through, especially when you get into thicker material, you can push it through with this, and you're not going to be pushing that on your finger, so it won't hurt. It works really well. So you really need one of those. And usually the sewing kits you get will come with one of these in them. So that's probably it. Then you have some items that you can get that are more optional, but they're really helpful. I would really suggest that you get some safety pins. They're super cheap. You can find them all over the place, and you can get different sizes and things, but that will help you when you are sewing it. You get ready and you put it into place, and that way if you're sewing two pieces together or something, it's not going to be going all over while you're trying to sew it, and then you wanted it to be together, and when you get done it's crooked or sideways or something. So that will help with that. Then there's all kinds of uses for tape measures. when you are sewing. And these are the flexible kind. If you didn't have them, you could use the other kind, but these are really good for the sewing. And again, a lot of times they will come with your kit, so that might work. Then they have bags of buttons, and you can get those. Or if you want to wait and when you need to sew a button on, because if a button pops off, that's a great way to mend your clothes. It's super easy to do that. And that's actually what we're going to do today. Is I'm going to show you how to put a button on that stays well. And you could do that, get a whole bag of them, and then you could have different ones. But usually if your button pops off, you're going to see it, you're going to want it, but not always. Sometimes you lose it somewhere and you didn't realize it. And you can find a button that's pretty close to what you have so that you don't have to get rid of that outfit that you have that you like so well. So that's an option. Now this one here, they do have different kinds of these. This is a needle threader. I've never used them. They're not convenient to me, and they are an option that you can have, and they're supposed to help you be able to thread, but I'm not going to be going over that because I don't care for them and I don't use them. All right, so that's your basic supplies. That's really all you need to get started, and you can mend things, and you can take care of your clothes and keep them longer. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you first how to thread a needle really up close, and then we'll do some simple stitches, and then really quick we'll sew a button on. All right, we are ready to thread our needle and get started. So I have chosen a needle that has a big head on it because that'll make it easier to get through. And I am using dark thread on this white so that you can see it. But if you were doing a repair, you would probably want to match it so that way it blends in really well and you wouldn't even know that you had a repair there, unless you're trying to do something dramatic and you just want it to be that way. So you would pull off some thread here, or unroll it, I should say. And you're going to put it right through the eye of that needle. Now I usually just have a little bit of thread sticking out from my fingers so that way I control it easier, and you put it right through that hole. In again, the bigger heads, it just goes through really easy, and then you pull it, and all together with this side and the other side, I would say make it about 8 to 9 inches long, because if you make it much longer than that, your thread's going to start getting all knotted up when you're trying to sew, and that can be frustrating. And if you have to, you can always tie it off and make more. So there it is. I've got the needle ready to go, and then I'm going to cut it off right about here. And as we talked earlier, we want to cut this off with something sharp so that the side that is still attached to the thread doesn't get all fuzzy and things and hard to use. So all you need to do is make a knot in the end of this. And this is really simple. You can do it lots of different ways. But one way that's really easy, I find, is you just wet your fingers, see where the two ends are, put your fingers there, kind of wrap it around your finger and roll it, and it will come right into a knot. And it doesn't have to be a pretty knot because it's going to be underneath your clothes, so that's fine. All this really needs to do is keep the thread together and keep it from pulling through each side when you're trying to sew. So this would be like a rip in your clothes here. If this is the top of your clothes, then you would want to flip it over, or the inside, you'd want to be on the inside, the part that people can't see. And you're going to make it to where you don't want it to be like that, because then it's going to show. So you want it to be even. So you line those up, get this ready, and that's what you're actually going to sew. So now they're even together, and this is where those stick pins come into play, because this will help you as you're sewing. So you can put one in the end there. That'll help that side. And then make sure again that it stays even. Put one in the other end. You leave enough space for your needle to go at the top. And then depending on how long your rip is, you'd put 2 or 3 or 4, but this is a small rip, so I'm just going to put the one while I'm demonstrating. Again, make sure that you keep it so that it's the way you want it to be. You push that in, push it back through, and that will help you as you're sewing, because I'm going to move this one because it's up too high. Because then it's not sliding around and you're not accidentally getting it uneven. So then you just start with your needle. So here you go like this. You stick it on the one side, and because this is all underneath, you just put it side to side to side. And I'll show you in a minute another thread if you were going to go, if you wanted to sew something up and down underneath. But this one is just because we are doing a repair. So you pull it through as far as it'll go, and the knot stops it. And then you would do just a small, close to where that one went, you do it again to the other side. And you pull it through again, and you want to watch your thread to make sure it doesn't get all caught up and it doesn't get, see how it did like that? That's super easy because you just pull on it and you straighten it out. And that's why you want to watch as you're going. And then you do it again. Pull it through. And you're sewing it. And when you are all done, it will be sewed on this side and it will not be showing. So you won't see all of this. Now, when you got to the end of your repair, what you would do, like say that was all I needed to do. It's really easy to tie it off. You want to make sure you're still on the inside or the underside, so that it's not showing. And while you still have thread here, instead of pulling it all the way through this time, put your needle through that hoop and you pull it. And that is going to tie it off. And then I usually do it a second time just to make sure that it's really good, because you don't want it to unravel, because if that comes unraveled, then your whole repair comes unraveled. So again, you just put it through there. See the loop? You're going to put that right through the loop and you pull it tight. Now that is a knot and it is ready for you to go ahead and snip it off. And that's all you have to do. And then you can repair your clothes that way. Now a button is not much different. And I'll show you that really quick too, in case you want to put a button on your clothes. Okay, with buttons, you might have the kind that have the 2 holes in them, or you might have the kind that has the 4 holes in them. And it doesn't matter. You do it the same way. It won't affect it either way, so it's fine. So we'll just do the small one to make it easier. So this is the top or the outside of whatever it is, and that's where you're going to put it wherever you'd want your button to be. And then we've already got our thread, we've already got our needle, we already did the knot at the end, so it's already ready to go. You go underneath your material, holding onto your button in the place you want it to be held. And you're going to make that first push up, and you want to make sure that you go into one of the holes. It does not matter which one. And then you're going to pull it through so that knot can get set. Pull it through. The knot is in place. You've got this. You got the one on top. Now you go catty corner from that, or in the other one if you've only got the 2. Making sure you keep the button where you want it to be. You go right back down. And again, you would be using thread that probably would be the same color, so it matches. But you can get creative with that. And you're going to pull it down. And now it's starting to get set. And then we're going to do that same thing with the other 2. But one thing that my 8th grade home ec teacher taught us that really does help. Again, you're going to go up. And this time you want to make sure it's going to be one of the buttons you want to go to, except before you go up there and you go into a button, you're just going to go off to the side like that. So just underneath the button, and you go straight up, pull it all the way up. You want to check to make sure you don't have knots under there in the thread that you're using. If you did, you just pull it like we did with the other one. Now, this is the trick that she taught us. You take your thread and you go around 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And that will give it that little bit of leeway it needs so that it's not too tight against your clothing, and it can pop off easier and things. This makes it more sturdy. And I have to say, in all these years, it certainly has helped. So now you finish going through that buttonhole that you have not went through yet, and you pull it up. And then you go down through the buttonhole that you have not went through yet. And that's all you have to do when you're sewing on a button. Now you'll keep going up and down a few times just to get it on there really well. So I'm going back up. Make sure I get it tight. I'm going back up into, and now it doesn't really matter which hole you go into. You just want to go in the different ones 2 or 3 times. So you go there, and then you go back down. You can do these 2 and you go back down. And after you have done that a few times, so you have threaded through a few times, pull that one through. Then you're going to flip it over. And the same way that we finished off that other one, we're going to finish off this one. You can just put it even right there in the thread that's already there. There's that hoop right there. So you get it pulled partway through, get it through your 2 pieces of thread, and you pull it tight. And that is making your final knot so that it doesn't come undone when you're done with it. And I always do it a second time. Pretty sure my teacher taught me that too. Now, I'm glad I did that because you see that one big hoop there, I wasn't watching carefully enough. And so you have a choice with that. And I've actually done this before. So if you're watching closely enough, you can just make sure the thread doesn't do that. But what if you didn't? And now, oh, you've got this. Well, it's no big deal. You can leave it, and that's fine. It won't matter because nobody will see it. Or if you really like to, you can just kind of twist it and then take it back under and do it a 3rd time. And then it doesn't have that big hoop sitting right there. And then you would just go through that process again, go right through the hoop, and there you go. And now you have a button sewed back on, and you don't have to get rid of your clothes. You can keep what you need. All right, that is it. It is super simple, super easy to mend. If you have questions, please put comments down below. I would love to answer any questions that you have, or if you didn't understand a certain part, I can talk to you about that too. Because mending is a way that we can all stretch our dollars and we can all keep our clothes longer. And it really doesn't take much material to do it. It just a few little items and you can get that done. So I hope you'll give it a try. If you do have any questions, let me know. If you would like to see more advanced sewing videos, we can certainly do those too. So let me know as we go on this unplugged journey what you might like to see. Thanks so much for stopping by. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.